what Americans have.
Have you gotten into regenerative farming at all and looked into that?
Not really, no.
It's something to consider, because when you were talking about ammonium, when you're talking about just the different fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides that get put into the ground, I don't know if it's scalable for the entire country. That's the real problem with it. But there's people like Joel Salatin and White Oak Pastures that's down in Georgia, and they figured out a way to have farms where it's regenerative, where the animals are eating the grass, they're fertilizing the grass, the fertilizer, they use the fertilizer for, to grow food, and they bring in these animals to these ecosystems, and they have them exist in a way that it's just basically contained nature.
Yeah.
It's just the way the natural cycle is, and they have a zero carbon footprint. It's essentially everything sort of works in balance, and that's how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And if you look at, especially from White Oak Pastures, he had a video of the runoff from a rainstorm from his property into the river, which is nothing, to the next door neighbor's property who runs an industrialized farm. And it's a fucking disaster. It's horrific to look at, because you just see the topsoil's gone. Look at the difference. There's a clear line between his property on the left and the neighbor's property on the right. I mean, how insane is it that this is normal for us? This is the problem. The problem is they've gone into these monocrop agriculture situations where they use the same land over and over again, and they have to apply fertilizer, and they have to apply herbicides and pesticides, and make it toxic for everything. But whatever the fuck it is they're growing, a lot of the stuff they're growing is genetically modified in order to be more tolerant of these pesticides and herbicides. And that's not good.
No.
This is a major source of the problem.
Yeah, fertilizer. But I can't comment on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. It's obviously not my wheelhouse either, but these people that I've had to talk about it.
But the point is that we're going to need, some people say, 3, 4, 5 times the amount of electricity that we have now by 2050, which is we use 2050 as a goal mark because that's the IPCC standard. They said that by 2050, all the countries of the world have to bring down the carbon emissions to zero. To zero. Now,
how is that
that's
going
to be? It doesn't work. I mean, the green renewables are great. There's a great idea. It made great sense when you saw Al Gore's film. But the truth is that CO2 keeps going up, not down. It's gone up since then, and we've spent trillions of dollars since the 2000 period. This is 20-some years now, and it just hasn't worked, and nobody admits it. That's what's crazy. So the only way to get the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere is do it clean, do it right now. You got to get rid of gas, and you got to get rid of oil, basically, and you got to be severe about it. That means you have to have an alternative, a clean, cheap, scalable alternative. And nuclear is the only one that's proven itself for so many years. And yet it doesn't even get talked about. I mean, journalists will say, and there's nuclear, which is dangerous. But it's not dangerous if you do it right, if you build it right and you keep it right. It's been done time and time again. It's just that one, I wish there had been more accidents. It would have really taught the lesson. Every industry has needed accidents. I mean, when they started the railroad, when they thought that your brain would get pushed back in your head because of the speed of the of going forward. Same thing was true with airplanes. You had more crashes before the airplane has been, modified into this incredibly powerful machine. We're not going to get rid of the airplane. We have to use fuel. We have to use aviation fuel, and that will come from the marriage of hydrogen and carbon, actually, and it will need a lot of heat, and that heat is going to come from nuclear. It's not going to come from anything else. That amount of heat.
We also have to take into consideration that if the population continues to grow and we're doing things the same way, whatever our output is now that's damaging, it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
There's going to be more people.
The United States is in good shape compared to the rest of the world, but look at India.
Yeah.
Look at Africa. Which is, people will burn wood if they have to, much less coal. I mean, they're not going to stop people from getting things, and they're going to want energy. That is going to be the prime. India is crucial We bring it up in the film. They are doing some great nuclear work. They have 20-some reactors in India, but they are definitely on the path of coal, like China. They're going to get, and their demand is enormous for coal. So what happens? There's no luck. We can't get out of that mess. We're going to have so much pollution, so much warming that the only way we can do it is by building nuclear now and taking everything else we can throw in there, including renewables, alongside it.
Well, I think it has to become something that people are aware of and becomes trendy, and that's one of the great things in the film. This Brazilian woman that lives in Austin.
Yeah, she lives in Austin. Yeah, her name is Isabel Boemke.
And
B-O-E-M.
she makes TikTok films.
Yeah.
And these little TikTok videos, the great thing about those is they become viral. And maybe that is how the message gets out.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think it needs to be addressed by leaders. The leadership of, let's say, President Xi of China has committed to the UN that by 2060 they will have zero carbon emissions.
Well, I think
that's a vow.
It's going to take someone who's got some courage, because politically it's an issue, because people do have this false narrative in their head.
Yeah.
So it's going to take someone who's willing to step outside of what the polling would show. Because I would imagine that
the polls
most people, if you just started talking about we have to switch the entire country over to nuclear power, if you're running for president, people go, whoa, 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 whoa. So many people just have the knee-jerk reaction that is brought about because of these films, because of the anti-nuclear power movement. There's still that propaganda exists in people's heads, or the false narrative, rather.
Necessity is the mother of invention. As things get worse, it will be clear that we need nuclear more and more and more, and we'll come late to the game, and we'll say, well, we got to build more and more and more nuclear because it's not working with wind and solar.
Right, but